Buddhism is a world religion founded by the Buddha in ancient India. Buddhists seek wisdom, meaning, inner peace, and freedom from greed, hatred, and ignorance. Mutually sustaining life, a Buddhist call to a troubled world.
Like the drunken man of the story, people wander about suffering in this life of birth and death, unconscious of what is hidden away in their nature, pure and untarnished, the priceless treasure of Buddha nature.
Hello, we're glad you could join us for today's show. I'd like to talk about how Buddhism and psychology have a lot in common and how they can be used to complement each other to foster our inner well-being. This concept is evident by the hundreds of books in English that promote self-contentment by applying Buddhism and psychology together. I should mention that I'm using psychology in a broad sense of the term to also include psychotherapy. Of course, Buddhism and psychology are not exactly the same in their methods and ultimate goals, as one is an ancient spiritual tradition from Asia and the other is a modern scientific approach developed in the West. However, in North America, it has long been recognized that the two overlap. For example, about 100 years ago, William James, the father of scientific study of religious experience, was lecturing on psychology at Harvard University. He noticed Anagadika Dharmapala, a well-known Buddhist monk from Sri Lanka, in the audience. It's been reported that Professor James then called out to Dharmapala and said, "Take my chair. You are better equipped to lecture on psychology than I am. This is a psychology everyone will be studying 25 years from now." Let me give a tangible example of how the two can work together to address human needs. No matter how successful we are in schoolwork or at our job, one time or another, we have all experienced a loss of confidence or a sense of being inferior to others. Everyone has felt this way. No one is exempt. We experience this feeling when we are criticized, or when our efforts fall miserably, or even if our efforts bring great results, but hardly anyone notices or pays any attention. In the future, when you experience such letdowns, try to remember a simple Buddhist parable that I'd like to share with you. This well-known parable comes from the Lotus Sutra, one of the important scriptures from the Mahayana branch of Buddhism. I'm going to take the liberty of slightly modifying the original story for our purpose. Once there was a man named Jiva who fell into a drunken sleep. His good friend Kumar tried to stay with him until he woke up, but after remaining as long as he could, he had to leave him when Jiva still did not wake up. Worried that Jiva would be in need to support himself, Kumar hid a jewel in his drunken friend's garment. When at last Jiva finally woke up and found his supportive friend gone, he was at a loss and began looking for Kumar, for he felt he truly could not live without his friend. He kept looking for him and wandered about, poor and hungry. He didn't know that Kumar had hidden a jewel in his garment. After a long time, the two friends met again, and Kumar told Jiva about the jewel and told him to look for it. Sure enough, the jewel was there, where it had always been all along. How do you like this parable? Aren't we all like Jiva when we experience a loss of confidence, self-doubt, self-pity, or a feeling of inferiority. At such times, rather than looking for the jewel within ourselves, we turn outward to find someone to support and validate us. Jiva finally found his friend, but had wasted so much time. And even if he had found Kumar right away, that would have satisfied him only temporarily. In other words, having a reliable friend is important, but does not provide a real solution. For in the end, we need to find the answer in ourselves and for ourselves. The jewel represents the Dharma, the teachings, in its two aspects. One is in the form of principles, such as the 4 marks of existence, for us to actualize in our lives through personal cultivation. The jewel as a principle points us in the right direction. The second comes in the form of spiritual assurance, expressed as Buddha nature. All sentient beings are equally endowed with Buddha nature. It does not matter whether you are rich or poor, man or woman, young or old, or even human or non-human. This Buddha nature assures us that we all possess the potentiality to become fully awakened. We are all future Buddhas. Being future Buddhas, we are all precious and worthy of respect. The Buddhist teachings represented by the jewel can help people such as Jiva find themselves. They are directed toward the ultimate truth, or metaphorically, the vertical dimension. However, according to psychologist John Wellwood, there are many people who are not able to benefit from these spiritual truths because they suffer from a fragile ego, which shows up as an extreme lack of confidence in oneself, or self-hatred, insecurity, or self-doubt. For example, Dr. Wellwood cites a case of a woman, let us call her Jackie, who had gone to a Buddhist teacher seeking advice about her anger toward her husband. The teacher advised Jackie to be a compassionate friend to her husband rather than be angry with him. This advice to be compassionate initially made her feel relieved, for Jackie did not have to confront her anger, which was too painful and threatening to her fragile ego. However, according to Dr. Wellwood, Jackie actually needed to confront her anger because she had suppressed it all her life. Her father was extremely abusive and punished her whenever she expressed her discontent. So Jackie soon learned to hold everything back and instead always tried to please others by being a good girl. From an absolute spiritual perspective of the vertical dimension, the advice for her to be compassionate was correct. However, on the relative, everyday, horizontal level, being compassionate without addressing the rage inside left her unhappy. She needed to first acknowledge her anger before she could express genuine compassion and love. And it is at this relative truth that psychological inquiry operates. Dr. Wellwood says that as a therapist, he helped Jackie to be open to the experience of anger, letting it unfold without judgment, and then gently exploring its meaning within her life experience. After she had attended to her psychological wounds from the past, she was then ready to benefit from the spiritual teachings. This is psychology at work in further serving to lead one toward spiritual development. Some psychologists, as well as Buddhists, feel that these two concepts have little to do with each other. Fortunately, however, there are psychologists who are open to integrating psychology and religion. Many of them support a branch that has come to be known as transpersonal psychology. As the word transpersonal implies, it not only attends to the personal, but also to what transcends it by affirming and integrating religious aspects, including Buddhism. In my view, psychology aims to assist individuals to develop the personal dimension. In other words, the aim of psychological work is the healthy ego or individuality for living effectively in the world, as was done in Jackie's case. However, for many of us, it's not enough to be fulfilled only at this personal level. After all, the personal dimension is limited in terms of time and space. In terms of time, we are finite and eventually we all must die. Death and the afterlife have been a perennial issue throughout much of human history. In terms of space, we cannot live alone physically or mentally for long. We depend on others, human and non-human, for our very survival. Within this human predicament, many of us experience a strong and powerful urge to go beyond this personal level to connect with what is sacred and real. This comes in the form of ultimate spiritual reality, human community, and the world of nature, wherein we find greater fulfillment in resolving the limitations of the self. And so, it is heartening to see this kind of greater integration of psychology with the spiritual and the sacred taking place, since, in the end, two are not separate. In actuality, we live in both dimensions. We need to cultivate both if we are to be truly fulfilled. In the 21st century, the ancient Buddhist tradition is blessed to be in a position to work closely with the modern discipline of psychology toward a more effective way of assisting humankind to realize their potential. Therefore, we must allow the two, Buddhism and psychology, to work together to tap the jewel within, while recalling today's opening passage. Like the drunken man of the story, people wonder about suffering in this life of birth and death, unconscious of what is hidden away in their nature, pure and untarnished, the priceless treasure of Buddha nature. Next week, we will explore the topic of Buddhist social action with an interesting guest. Please be sure to join us. And also, please visit our website for a listing of the various Buddhist centers in your area.
We at Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai pursue peace and happiness for people around the world. We have published the Buddhist teachings into 41 languages and donated our publication to hotels and other facilities in 55 countries. We would like to share the Buddhist teachings with people around the world. That's our mission. Visit our website for more information